Us for a talk this afternoon. We've got some of the leading minds in music today. We're going to talk about voice assistants. And so the question I want to start with is, can we just set the landscape? Because my mind, it goes back a couple years ago, I'm shouting at my car to play CDs, but things are very different nowadays.
So things have changed a little bit, but I think there's still voices for us is a new frontier. We think it's an easy way for customers to take actions with technology. It's a highly intuitive interaction model. It changes the ease at which people can get to content and play content. For music, it's important when you have 50 million songs and lots of different options. So music just it lowers boundaries so you can get to music that you want to play as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah, and kudos to Amazon and what they've done with the Echo, sort of lighting up people really understanding the promise of voice recognition. Has been there, talk about it in cars for a decade plus, but studies have shown actually having that experience, but having it be a frustrating one is worse than not having it at all. So seeing the Echo in our house, just anecdotally firsthand, my kids interacting with it, the opportunity it's presented, and certainly the engagement that we see in Pandora, yeah, you guys have definitely helped springboard us into this new phase of engaging with content via voice.
Yeah, you know, it's, I think before Alexa, voice was always a gimmick, right? I mean, you kind of needed to know exactly how to use it, you needed to know the right words to use. If you didn't know the script, it didn't work. And it was almost, it wasn't worth the effort of learning. And I think Alexa was the first one that was like, wow, this is real. Like, this isn't just a gimmick. Like, this can be real. It's almost like magic. And I think one of the things that we've seen is voice is kind of the killer app for music, right? I think in the home, we've worked in the connected home for so long, and we've been really waiting for the big thing, the iPhone moment in the home. And it sort of feels like voice is that thing that is getting people to really engage with music in their homes in ways that they haven't done since the hi-fi stereo system was popular.
And I think that's going to bleed into other contexts as well, right? The car's we've talked about voice in the car, but my 7-year-old, in fact, a couple of months ago, we got in the car, she's in the back, I started it up, and from the back I hear her voice, Alexa, play, and oh, sorry, Dad, I forgot where I was. But one, it shows how quickly that's become part of her behavior, right? It's ingrained already, and two, it speaks to the demand for a really great voice experience in a bunch of environments.
I think that's what we're seeing too, is that voice, it affects all people in the same way. So if you're young, if you're old, if you're a technophile, if you're a technophobe, it's so easy, it's so natural. Voice has been around before technology's been around. So as a way to interact with technology, it just makes it so much easier to accomplish those tasks. So my kids do the same thing. You know, when we launched the Echo years ago, my kids came home and started trying to get milk with it and turn on the bath, everything they wanted to do, because it freed stuff for them. It let them do things. And so I think voice is, it just lowers those hurdles, those boundaries, so you can quickly get to the stuff that you want to do and move on with your life.
Well, I want to touch on where voice is technically today, because I do remember the days of, please play album, track, whatever, and having to say it precisely, or I was going to get an error message. So for a services perspective, has this been seamless to integrate with the Echo? And then from the user perspective, which it sounds like we all use voice assistants with our music today, have you been able to query almost whatever you want? Hey, I'm interested in some 90s music. Alexa, can you play me some 90s music? No problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we think a lot about, right? I mean, I think the most interesting piece about voice is that it's almost become another operating system, right? There's no app, there's no screen. You can't disambiguate meaning if Spotify doesn't know exactly what you're asking for, I can't list 20 things on a screen and say, what did you mean? Which means that we have to be really sort of super accurate about what people want. When people say, play me Help by the Beatles, that's easy. When someone says, play the Beatles, that's a little more ambiguous, but still pretty easy. But then someone says, play me the Beatles song that was #1 hit in 1968 or whatever, like that becomes harder and harder, but we're finding that we're getting much, much better at that stuff, right? And the voice technology is enabling that. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of innovation and progress on being able to do those like very sort of ambiguous queries. Like, they're music related, but they're super ambiguous as to what the user wants. but we're going to be able to get much, much better about resolving those.
Yeah, those are definitely two of the biggest challenges, right? There's people ask for things that are highly ambiguous, or people use multifaceted search queries that you can't really do in text. Nobody's going to type into a box, I want, the first live version of an album. It's too much to do, but in voice you can do that, and it makes it easy to do that. So figuring out how to be able to support all of those types of requests flawlessly without a screen, so you can't disambiguate. Finding the right best thing for a customer to play at that point in time is one of the challenges we're working with our partners on to figure out how to do that better. And at Amazon, we like to say it's day one. I would say for voice technology, it's day zero. Like it's really in infancy. There's a huge opportunity to get better. Lots of technology improvements that'll be coming in the next few years. I think you'll see it evolve rapidly and get better and smarter. And working with great partners like these, we're hoping that we can do things to make the music experience richer and deeper through the voice and through the new technology we're looking to roll out.
I want to touch on something you said when you're talking about working with the partners. What do these relationships look like? Because I know, Pandora famously has had algorithms for a while that can kind of track what a user's taste might be and predict perhaps what they want to listen to next. So when you're approaching a company like Pandora, is it a little back end from company A, a little back end from company B, and ultimately the user is going to be the one who has an awesome listening experience that could, like you said, these multifaceted queries and whims we have?
You guys want me to tag along? So I think it is a little of both, right? So what we're trying to do is, these guys already have great services. We don't want to change the great services that they have. What we want to do is we want to enable a voice experience on top of it, right? So we're partnering with them to try and figure out how do we enable voice capabilities such that customers can get to the rich experiences that they know and love with the services that they use daily, right? And so what we're just trying to do is facilitate that experience. And so we work closely with them to build technology, expose technology, so that they can build and evolve this great customer experience through Alexa.
And from my side, I can totally vouch for what Ben's saying, right? We don't come into this with an expectation we're going to be having exclusivity on the platform. We know we're going to have to compete on the quality of our brand, the quality of our service, but we also have a dynamic where Amazon, as an example partner, is open to collaboration, takes our feedback. What is it? How can we shape the direction of this together? How can we use the inputs that we have and the knowledge that we have for our listener base to feed that back into the platform evolution that's going to help create the best listening experience? Because to Ben's point, people are going to love the Alexa, the Echo, or any AVS implementation in large part because of all the skills it provides, but they're going to love it also because it provides access to the services that they use other than the Amazon provided ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quality of the service all comes down to the data that you have, how you use that data, right? Sort of what you figure out is the signal and the noise and all of that. So I think, working with Amazon and others has been great because they're really figuring out, like, voice isn't the same for every type of engagement, right? The way that you might order pizza or an Uber with your voice is different than what you're going to ask for when it comes to music. And I think Amazon's been great about acknowledging that and working closely with us to really help figure out, like, okay, how do we make sure that the data that Amazon has and the data that we have, that we can all work together to make sure that we are responding as quickly and accurately to the user as possible.
You mentioned data, and you mentioned this is a platform that's really in its infancy. So I'm wondering, what trends have you seen early on that are intriguing to you guys as being on the back end of it, and where do you think it's going? What is kind of the short-term future and maybe 10 years from now look like for voice when it comes to music?
So I think what we've seen and what our partners have told us is usage rates are really high because we've lowered these hurdles. So people are getting very engaged in using the product. But we're in home spaces right now. I think as you look to the future, you'll see it in more places. Hopefully it'll roll out in some of the environments. These guys are already doing really great. But I think voice is inherently natural. It can be anywhere. And so it's a great way to interact with any technology. So I think as we look into the future, we want to expand the areas where people can use voice to be able to access their music. And I think we'll get smarter and more personalized, right? So we'll be able to do a better job with requests because they're very large catalogs. It's very hard to do, get everything right out of the gate. So as we evolve, we'll get smarter and work closely with these guys to drive hopefully more personalization through the experience.
And are you guys, what are you seeing early on? Are you seeing these kind of intricate requests that maybe you were surprised users are defaulting to, or is there anything kind of intriguing you that you didn't expect this early on?
Well, we've seen really high engagement on Echo and sister products. I think that speaks in part to the original foundational element for Pandora's service was more of a lean back radio-like experience, right? So easy access into the stations that you want, but then let it go in the connected home environment. Where I think it's going to go, and we've talked a little bit about this, is that opportunity to get really specific with some of the asks. I can imagine, again, my kids who are now my benchmark for evaluating all of these interactions, saying, play me a specific track from the Moana soundtrack and they might not know the guy from the Flight of the Conchord, but that level of granularity in the requests that they're making. So I think that's we're just in the process of rolling out a premium service that will allow for that level of specificity in the requests that you make. So really excited to be here at the forefront of voice, enabling those types of engagements as we make that service available to our listeners.
I think one of the things that I found most fascinating about voice, and it's the opposite of the kids being engaged, is that actually my mother-in-law, right? So my mother-in-law, I've gotten her a number of different devices over the years for her home to try to get her engaged with music. She loves music, she hates technology. She's incredibly intimidated by it. And I bought her a number of things over the years to try to get her to engage, and nothing's ever worked. And then I got her an Echo. Not only did her and my father-in-law get it set up immediately, they were listening to music 5 minutes later. They use it all the time now. So just the idea that voice is so natural, and when it works, it's magic. I always knew that sort of conceptually it could be magic, but to see it really, the magic really happening is just phenomenal. And the way that people, regardless of their sort of technical bent, are engaging with these products is really amazing. So when you just think about all the different future applications of a technology that everybody, regardless of age, regardless of sort of technical competency, can engage with, really is kind of amazing. I think the sky's the limit.
I want to talk about something that I think is probably near and dear to the music services is discoverability. And there's tons of artists who seek out these platforms as a way to get their music to fans. And I'm wondering, is there a role for voice in discoverability? We're talking about these queries before, and they're all geared at some type of specific music in mind, even if it is a complex query. But is there a role for voice to play in discoverability going forward?
Absolutely. I mean, discoverability is at the core of that radio-like experience that I mentioned for Pandora, where you start a station based on an artist or a track. The idea being that we can deliver this delightful experience that will marry stuff you already know you love and stuff that you newfound love, musical interests. Where that goes from a voice standpoint, I think, is as you're listening to that experience, as you're making a request, we can build in smarter query support to say, I really like this song, play something I haven't heard that shares some fundamental elements, right? Whether it's the electric guitar or syncopated rhythms or go down the list, right? A lot of the foundational understandings that we have for music, as well as overlap between our listeners' interests, we can leverage that to support queries that are coming in from a discover request standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, to my point earlier about not having a screen, I feel like voice is, if nothing but about discoverability, right? I mean, for as many people as there are that know exactly what they want to listen to when they want to listen to it, there are many more people who need a little bit of guidance. And it's hard enough to sort of help people navigate through a musical journey when you have a screen and 40 million tracks sitting in that service. When you have no screen, but you still have those 40 million tracks, how do you get people into a great experience? So I would say that discoverability is even more important on voice than it is in other places. But I think what's great is that, we're getting to a point where you'll be able to say to your device, hey, play me good dinner party music. And it won't be generic dinner party music that someone has created a playlist for that thinks the whole world likes for dinner, because everyone's got different musical tastes. It'll be what's good that I like during dinner, right? Or being able to say, play me good music for running, and everyone's got different tastes. Or even being able to say, hey, remember there was that song I heard in the car 3 weeks ago that was awesome. I can't remember the name of the song, but play that for me. Like being able to do that stuff is really right around the corner. I think is sort of the kind of thing that we need to nail in the voice world.
Yeah, I agree. I think it presents new opportunities to get to content using things that you're doing in your daily life. I think one of the beautiful things about music is in a lot of cases, it's a background activity that you do while doing other things, right? And so by exposing those other things as ways that you can get to the music, you can create lots of discovery opportunities. So running, cooking, playing with your kids, whatever those things are, you can build music experiences around them that help drive discovery. And then as music is playing, you will also be able to kind of guide that playback experience by giving them requests to say, no, move more in this direction. I want something that's a little bit more upbeat, a little bit slower. Things that wouldn't be very easy to do in a touch-based world are incredibly simple, at least from a getting the request in perspective and voice. And then it's up to these services to be able to build really rich experiences around that, which will help people discover more and more content. So we think discovery is a huge component of where voice will go in the future as we get more robust and we build out better experiences around that.
We're running a little short on time, but I want to at least hear, what is your big dream or wish for voice, say, in the next 5 years? Is there some type of killer application from a services standpoint you're waiting on, or from Amazon, is there some type of music ability that you have in mind that we're just kind of waiting on bated breath for?
I'm really interested in the idea of how your voice, like how the voice experience follows you throughout your day as well, right? So being able to say like, play this in this room, play this in that room, play this on that TV, or I'm going to my car right now, so pause this and that to my car. Make sure when I walk home, or like, when the car, make sure the car tells the home tells Alexa that I'm coming home, so play this music when I walk in, which I think is something that's already like can sort of be done, which is cool. So I'm really sort of intrigued at not just voice and sort of one-off experiences, but then how voice integrates into the sort of the fabric of your life.
I would say for me, it's I don't know there's one killer experience that I'm wishing. I think what we're finding is it's day zero. We're learning new things every day from our customers. We're evolving the experience rapidly to try and understand how we best serve those customers. And every time we do something, we learn more. And so I'm really excited to see what are the things we don't know a year from now, 2 years from now, that is going to change everything, right? So the soundtrack of your life example, so it's moving from wherever you go in your day, how you interact with things. I think that will, as we unlock this in more locations, we unlock more features, we're going to find new use cases we hadn't thought about that is going to dramatically change things. And I'm excited for that discovery process, right? As we learn with our customers, as they're using these experiences, and we figure out what can we do better? How do we change this? I think it's going to evolve fairly rapidly, but I don't think there's one killer thing out there that I said, God, I really wish we had that now. There's 1,000 things I wish were a lot better than they are today, and we're working very diligently to try and close this as fast as we can.
I think your comment about unlocking it in different places speaks to what I'm most excited about is what we've now seen as a really great voice experience in the home, permeating throughout the rest of our lives, right? Opening up this door, and then the data that we'll be able to collect, the understanding, the richer understanding we'll have of our listeners, the ability that we'll have using that information to refine the experience. It just becomes this virtuous cycle. So really exciting to be at the forefront of it, and I think there's a lot more coming down the road.
Well, as a music fan, thank you for everything you guys have done and your companies are continuing to do. I look forward to seeing this future come to fruition. Enjoy the rest of your time in New Orleans, and thanks for having us, everyone.